Are you worried about developing dementia yourself? Maybe you have some family members who have been diagnosed with dementia, so you think that that means you will probably get it too. Well, I have some great news. Today, we are talking about lowering your dementia risk, and I'm going to walk you through a quiz. There was a recent research article released in February 2024 that revealed 5 lifestyle factors that could lower your dementia risk. And here was the coolest part about the study. These 5 factors reduced your dementia risk even if your brain showed the pathology for Alzheimer's disease. What does that mean? Well, it means that people who have Alzheimer's tend to have amyloid plaques and tau proteins in their brain. So what this research study did is they took participants, once they passed away, they autopsied their brain. And they looked specifically to see the presence of amyloid plaques and tau protein. And what they did is they compared the brains of the people who had passed away with how those people lived their life. The participants who were involved in this study were part of a larger study followed over a time period, enrolled in the Rush Memory and Aging Project. So over time, they've been working with these participants. They followed these participants. The participants filled out questionnaires and forms about their lifestyle. And then once they passed away, the researchers looked at their brains to figure out what's going on. So we know that people who have Alzheimer's disease tend to have these pathologies in their brain. However, not everybody who has these pathologies end up developing Alzheimer's. We also know that people who develop Alzheimer's sometimes don't have these pathologies. So simply because we have signs of amyloid plaque and tau protein, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get Alzheimer's disease. However, you would have an increased risk. So these 5 factors were independently shown to reduce dementia risk even when these brain pathologies were present. That's pretty amazing. So you might recall recently I posted a video on how there will soon be a blood test to determine whether or not you have some of these brain pathologies present. Well, have no fear. If you do have some of these pathologies present, it doesn't mean you're guaranteed or doomed to get Alzheimer's disease. Let's talk about the 5 specific factors that can reduce your risk. And I want you, as I go through one by one, I want you to count and give yourself a score. So 5 would be a perfect score. 1 would be a very low score, and then anything in between. So we're gonna go through and I'm gonna share this one by one with you. The very first lifestyle factor that reduced the risk of dementia in people whose brain had pathology for Alzheimer's disease was, can you guess it? Heard it a million times, diet. That was one of the main factors. People who tend to follow the MIND diet lower their risk for dementia. The MIND diet is more popularly known as the Mediterranean diet. The DASH diet is popularly known as the diet for the intervention of neurodegenerative delay. These diets really emphasize leafy greens, nuts, berries, fish, and whole grains. How did you do? Did you get a 1 on that one? Do you think you follow that diet most of the time? All right, the second thing that will reduce your dementia risk, are you ready for it? Guarantee you can guess it. What do you think? You probably guessed it. It's physical exercise. And in particular, 150 minutes of moderate to intense physical exercise per week. This can include things like walking, biking, gardening, swimming, things that are going to get your heart rate up. How are you doing so far? Do you have 2 points so far? Hopefully. The third thing that researchers found that reduced dementia risk were cognitively stimulating activities, making sure you were engaged, ongoing, consistently in cognitively stimulating activities, which could include crossword puzzles, but also included things like playing cards, visiting museums, learning a new language, anything that really worked the brain. Just like our muscles, our brain needs to be worked, and that was one of the things that reduced your risk regardless of if you had some of those brain pathologies. All right, we're down to the final 2. How are you doing so far? Here we go. Not smoking cigarettes. And in this study, it's important to note that it didn't mean you couldn't have smoked in the past. It just means during the time of the study, they were not smoking cigarettes. So even if you were a past smoker, you can still reduce your dementia risk by quitting smoking. That was number 4. Here we go. Last one. And then I want to know your score, and I want you to leave it in the comments below. And I'm going to give you a message of hope, so don't miss it. Okay, the final factor that the researchers found was alcohol consumption, specifically light to moderate alcohol consumption, or none at all, reduced your dementia risk. What they found is for females, consuming about 14 grams or less of alcohol in a day. If you were a male, 30 grams or less of alcohol in a day. What this really amounts to is probably no more than 1 alcoholic drink for a female per day, and no more than 2 alcoholic drinks for a male per day. If we follow these, we can reduce our dementia risk even if you are at a higher risk for dementia. How did you do? I think that I could probably improve on diet and exercise. I do pretty well, but I can always do better. I think specifically the point with the exercise being vigorous exercise. So rather than doing things that don't really get my heart rate up too much, like walking or hiking or even pickleball for me sometimes, I could do more cardio, weight-bearing exercise that gets my heart rate up. I don't know. I think I would give myself maybe a 3.5 points on my score of how I'm doing. I'm hoping you did a little bit better than me, but here's the thing. No matter what score you're giving yourself, there is always room for improvement. It is never too late to start prioritizing your own brain health. What you do today will impact your brain health in the future. And thankfully, because of this research, it's telling us it's going to impact our brain health regardless of our genetic risk. Now, I should do a caveat. There's about 2% of the population that no matter what they do, they will develop it. But that is like 2% of the population. For everybody else, what we do is going to make a huge difference. So here's to preventing dementia and reducing our dementia risk. What did you think? Did you find this video helpful? Careblazers, I know information can be power, but applied information is even more powerful. So if you'd like to work with a group of people who come together week after week to work on their own health behaviors, they're reducing their own risk, as well as how to handle all the stress that comes along with caring for a loved one with dementia, there's a link in the description below where you can learn about how to join us inside of the CARE course. I've also linked the exact full study that shared these results. You can download it yourself if you want to dive into the science. I am sending you so much love. Bye.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.